Hate to see it botched? Here's the best bits, a Botching It Up podcast short clip.
Undertaker is buried alive, and then we don't see him for almost a month afterwards. And when we do next see him is Raw, January 11th, 1999. Undertaker returns.
This was my jump on point, and this is what I see as the proper formation of the Ministry of the Darkness.
Yeah, this is the start of the storyline. Up until now, it's just been understanding that Taker is meant to be feuding with Kane, like officially, but actually he's more involved with Austin and Vince.
And this was also my first viewing of the Ministry of Darkness gimmick, so I was actually really impressed with this. You had Dennis Knight unconscious on a slab in some red satin. Undertaker had a throne built for him after his holiday in the grave. There's ominous music playing. Taker mimes along to a promo while trying to avoid those little red dot things, which I'm pretty sure are illegal now. And he says great shit, like, are you an agent of darkness or a mere kindling for my fire? And the lighting and the vibe, it's just good TV, man. There's fires blazing by his throne. Hell has relocated to Earth. Like, this was a great promo. Carly or not, this is exactly what I love watching wrestling for, and I thought it was really well handled.
So the whole reason we're talking about this is our little mini horror season, and I think from all of the horror-esque wrestling stuff we've seen, this is the creepiest thing I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, with Taker slits his wrist, he pours the blood into a goblet and makes Knight drink it before cutting his chest in the shape of Taker's logo, which still stands up 20 years later.
This was great special effects because when first of all did not see the slitting of the wrist coming from a mile off, and when he did it, like, I don't like gore so much, so I jumped in my seat. I got goosebumps. And I mean, it's great stuff, but I didn't enjoy it because I don't like the horror stuff.
That shows how well done it was, because this episode is 20 years ago, and we've never really, I mean, you saw the eyeball match. We've never really known wrestling to have high production values. So I don't know who was working in the back here, but they managed to get some pretty great looking blood glitter to throw on there.
The cutting of the chest was amazing, so it looked just super real. I didn't know if because the lights were dimmed or whatever, but the special effects were fantastic. And as you mentioned, the acolytes were holding, what was his name before? It was Dennis Knight down, and then Undertaker rechrists him as Mideon.
Little tour of Dennis Knight. The Undertaker's Bone Street crew in real life. So Undertaker had a little gang backstage, which was sort of the anti-clique where all the hard men came from. And all of the group have BSK tatted on them. It's on Taker's stomach. I think it's somewhere on Mideon's arm. And they hung around heavy, like they drank heavily. There's a story about Undertaker. Do you know the band Cypress Hill?
Yeah.
Insane in the Membrane.
Yeah.
So Undertaker was going sober for a little while, and he met Cypress Hill at a airport, and they said, "Hey, let's go drinking." And Taker's like, "Nah, I'm taking it easy." And Cypress Hill said something along the lines of, "Didn't realize you're a pussy." And Taker looked at them, and that was that. And he just says, like, maybe 10 hours later, they were all asleep in this hazy, smoke-filled room, apart from Taker and X-Pac, who was like babbling, and Taker just picked him up and picked X-Pac up and put him on his shoulder and walked out of the room with like 5 dead Cypress Hill guys. But anyway, what I'm saying is that group was built for heavy drinking, and they played dominoes a lot, which is the Bone Street crew. That's what that happened. And it seems like a lot of Taker's mates, specifically Dennis Knight, were basically given a role in this ministry, so while Taker had something to do to give his friends a little bit of a rub, which is where the Mideon thing comes from.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
I also wanted to mention the name Mideon. So I looked up a lot of the definitions of these characters' names because they're ridiculous. And I initially, the only thing I could find on it was that Mideon was like a random fourth son of Abraham in the Bible.
Okay.
And I couldn't find anything past that. But it's my own fault for assuming that they'd even looked that far. Apparently, the name Mideon came from the Clive Barker movie Nightbreed, which Dennis Knight had watched about 2 weeks before, and he said the name of the town where all the monsters lives was called Mideon, and he just thought that was a cool name, so that's what he called himself.
Yeah, just a cool name. Let's run with it.
And he's now a professional chef.
Yeah, I knew that. I've seen that.
Yeah, that's my rundown on Mideon.
Just to keep you updated, Kane is now feuding with Triple H as part of the corporation against DX. Later on, Triple H turns his back on DX. Anyway, so the next week, we're on Raw 13th of February, which is in Canada in front of 43,000 people. Just an episode of Raw. Nothing special. Not sure why that's a thing. Anyway,
I'm going to pretend I watched this week.
Godfather is against Viscera. This is the first time we see Viscera's cool blue icy eyes. Mideon is actually on commentary, and this is the first time we see his.
Mideon is on commentary.
Yeah, and this is the first time we see his eyeball in a jar, and he's saying that it was a present from Undertaker.
Oh.
So that Mideon can like see through the darkness or whatever. And this is also the first time that it's hyped to us that Undertaker is going up against the Boss Man. So in the matches we haven't really seen it, but basically
that's not true. That's not true.
Is it not?
Undertaker. You're meaning like Undertaker's gunning for Boss Man.
Yeah.
Not the Mania match.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're gonna come after Boss Man because he is Vince's like right-hand man, head of security.
See, I just watched. I skipped all this stuff. It doesn't sound like I fucking missed anything. And I watched the match at Valentine's Day Massacre, and Mideon just turns up with an eyeball, and all I've written is, you can fucking blame fucking Marilyn Manson's popularity for fucking this.
No, he's sound commentary, and he does explain his eyeball. Not until...
So it was just a present. It's just...
Yeah, it was...
Taker's like, oh, here, have one of my victims. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. There's not much else to put on top of that.
Mideon had his own merch, man. This was the day when this was the time and era where you could be Mideon and have your own T-shirt.
Cool.
Because everything sold. Well, give or take.
Anyway, so we're on St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Undertaker is in this big like sports huddle. There's like 9 of them now around a fire.
Oh, by the oil drum.
Yeah.
Where the hobos live.
Yeah. And
some of the locations they picked out for the ministry were amazing.
And Undertaker says their purpose in life starts tonight. Big Boss Man versus the Mideon. Oh, that's what I meant a minute ago. Mideon was hyping up his own match against Boss Man.
Yeah.
The corporation's head of security versus the Ministry of Darkness first brother. That's what it was billed as. It was a really shit match. Don't need to talk about it.
Well, there was some nice hard shots from Boss Man in this, just to be an optimist.
The crowd were literally chanting boring. I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard a boring chant in the 90s.
I'm pretty sure I heard boring chants in every ministry match on pay-per-view that didn't include the Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Because there was always just brawls. There was no actual real wrestling. And I know there was a lot of brawling in the 90s, but...
Even Taker's pay-per-view matches had boring chants in them.
Because he same problem, man. It was just punches and kicks and throwing each other into the barrier and the steel steps. There was not a single suplex or drop toe hold or hip toss. Nothing.
If you're having Mideon against Boss Man on pay-per-view, I feel like The Undertaker needs more promo time, and so do the ministry people. It's clear that, obviously, you told me they tried at least for a week because they had Mideon on commentary. But Cole actually says halfway through, he asks Lawler what he thinks Taker is telling these guys to do and why they've like just strangely come under his power and under his wing, and they play it off obviously as Taker being like a Manson type, but that was never come into. Like, you're telling me a week before or 2 weeks before, Gangrel gets hung and then becomes a friend and a follower of Taker. They never actually explained why these guys became part of Taker's crew. The only thing I can think of really is that every time somebody got sacrificed, they privately had a Mideon ceremony, and that's why they became part of the ministry. Because they don't tell me anything else. I have to make up my own stories.
I mean, I assume that's what happened with Viscera. They put him in the hearse, and then they just had their own private sacrifice christening thing off TV. No, I don't think this is a ministry problem. I think just all of Raw. It's just crash TV. They're just throwing so much shit at the wall, and they don't explain anything. And then next week, they kind of just forgotten about. It's very schizophrenic.
Yeah,
Like, share, and subscribe to keep it botched up, brother.